What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Prop Queen Pod. I'm the Prop Queen, Ariel Epstein. As always, a complete mess over here. I don't know why my computer is freezing up on me, but hopefully you guys can hear me okay. We've got a big show. A lot of different people coming on. Vecchio going to talk MLB, NHL props. Troy Perlowitz from NHL.com going to talk about NHL props as well at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I feel like everything's just kind of lagging right now. So I'm apologizing in advance if things are not looking good on your guys' end. Happy Wednesday, everybody, from Sean Michael. Glad to have you all here. It was actually kind of funny to start off the show. I'll start off with something funny from the Colorado Rockies, believe it or not. The Rockies are 2-0 in their last two games, going back to, of course, the start of June. I don't know where all these graphics are. I hate producing this show. Sorry, guys. Anyway, here is what the Rockies said today. The Colorado Rockies tweeted, since June 2nd, Rockies 3, Scotty Scheffler 0. I don't know if you guys saw this over the weekend, but over the weekend, they were talking about how Scotty Scheffler had more wins than the Colorado Rockies. I actually was looking up. I use this site on EV Analytics to tell you how profitable a team's been. In the last 3 days, the Colorado Rockies are 2-1. You're up just over 2 units. Your return on investment is just under 77%. That's how steep of a money line these Colorado Rockies have been. The Rockies, I mean, their bats were struggling for a long time, but now they've just gotten 3 wins over the Miami Marlins. So again, it's the Miami Marlins. And if you saw the stadium, it's nothing to really brag about. Anyway, we've got some things to look at from yesterday, where the Prop Queen newsletter was right yesterday. Yankee southpaw Carlos Rodon went over his 6.5 and 7.5 strikeout prop. He had 8 strikeouts in 7 innings against the Guardians. Christopher Sanchez, one of the Royal Locks, went under 4.5 Ks with 4 Ks in 6 innings against the Jays. And that Mets-Dodgers fishy line, guys. I mean, that game was insane last night. It was an absolute back and forth. The Mets' first 5 ended up cashing, which is what I mentioned is the right play. They were up 5-4 after 5, but then the Dodgers tied it up in the bottom of the 9th, sent this thing to extras, and in the bottom of the 10th inning, the Dodgers end up walking it off. So if you were on the Dodgers, you definitely probably didn't want to be for 9 innings because that was a doozy. We were wrong on Tyler McGill, who did not go under his 5.5 K prop. He had 7 against LA. The Blue Jays, they sucked. They lost 8-3 to the Phillies. And Jessica, sorry, that was a rough one yesterday. We don't need to talk about it. But Jessica said, Colorado putting me in instant anger. I believe that you said they'd win. I just laughed that you were feeling so good about it. But, I mean, I'm glad that you ended up cashing. Yeah, happy NHL Day, Jessica says. Stanley Cup Finals start tonight. So we're going to talk a lot of hockey today. I feel like we've talked so much baseball. I also have some NBA prop previews. So I'm really excited to get to those because we've got the NBA Finals starting tomorrow. And probably the only thing that's going to keep us excited about the NBA playoffs, or the NBA Finals, is going to be betting on it because it's just brutal. Other news today. The Phoenix Suns end up hiring their new head coach. Jordan Ott is coming over from the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Ott's been an NBA assistant since 2012. He also, it was a big list of candidates that they had. And let's see what else. Obviously, he's helped the Cavs a ton. The Cavs were awesome. But this is what I thought was really funny. Devin Booker. He's now going to have 8 different coaches in 11 seasons. This is insane. I feel like everyone's career goes to die in Phoenix. Like, we never even see from anybody anymore, any of these names. I mean, Budenholzer's different. But, damn, Phoenix, like, get your act together. This stuff's, like, it's horrible. Yeah, so anyway, poor Devin Booker. The Phoenix Suns, just an absolute mess. Like, even when Kevin Durant went there and everyone's like, oh, they'll be great. No. We did have day baseball today. Day baseball, I think I lost a strikeout prop already. Cal Quantrill sucked. I was excited about his strikeout prop today. Colorado ends up winning 3-2 over Miami. Milwaukee wins 9-1 over Cincinnati. Boston had a crazy walk-off today. Some strikeout props that happened. So Kyle Freeland goes over over 3.5 Ks, but that was heavy juice to the over. He goes under 4.5 with 4 strikeouts and 6 1/3 against Miami. Cal Quantrill only had 2 strikeouts against the Rockies somehow, a team that's averaging 6 strikeouts a game. Like, how the hell do you only have 2 strikeouts against the Marlins? Looking at the Miami Marlins today, they were like one of my favorite plays to bet against to bet against the Rockies, because righties are 23 overs, 19 unders, averaging 6 strikeouts a game. 7 of the last 10 righties to face the Colorado Rockies have gone over their strikeout prop. Yet Cal Quantrill sucks enough to go under it. But then you bring in Jansen Junk after, and Jansen Junk gets 6 strikeouts in 4 innings against Miami. So Cal Quantrill just sucked today and didn't have it. He only gave up 2 runs. 3-2. Rockies end up winning. I'm trying to see if I could find. Oh, I had the Rockies money line was only plus 132. And the steam actually was moving in favor of Miami this whole day, from minus 134 last night to minus 156. Milwaukee Brewers dominated the Reds. The Brewers were a plus 102, like a slight dog there. Cincinnati was minus 120 on FanDuel. And Milwaukee ends up winning 9-1. It was DL Hall on the mound, the lefty for the Brewers. He ends up going 3 innings, and then Quinn Priester came on to piggyback him with 5 innings to go long. Cincinnati, on the other hand, they started their lefty Andrew Abbott, and he got crushed. 5 earned runs, 7 hits. He still had 6 strikeouts against Milwaukee, which is pretty impressive, actually, for you to give up that many runs. But the good game today was the Red Sox and Angels. That was a 1:30 p.m. Eastern time game. The line moved just slightly in favor of the Red Sox, minus 126 to minus 132 since last night. It was a total of 10. There ended up being 20 runs scored in this game. At first, I'm watching, and I see that the Angels are up 4-0 in the first. I'm like, damn, Boston. Like, how'd you get down so fast? That's when I turned on the game. Boston comes back with 5 runs in the bottom of the first inning. So it's 5-4. The Angels fight back and go up 7-5 in the second inning. So we already go over the total in the second inning of this game. The Red Sox end up with 2 more runs. Then the Angels score another run. And then the Red Sox score 2 more runs in the 7th and 8th. So now it is 9-9 going into the bottom of the 9th inning. And the Red Sox, Rafaela, by the way, hits this like short porch home run. It curled around the pesky pole. Like, it was like Jeff Passan tweeted, it's probably the shortest home run you'll ever see. So that's how the Red Sox ended up winning this game. But the Red Sox are still very far back in the standings for the American League. I was looking at the odds, actually, for divisions. Yankees are minus 1,600 to win the AL East. Minus 1,600. That's like OKC Thunder numbers. They're not that good. That's how bad the AL East is. Honestly, I wish I could say you could find value here, but meh. AL Central, Tigers minus 550. There's probably value in the Central, but I'm on the Tigers. I had them at plus 320 to win the AL Central preseason. AL West, always wide open. I was on a show yesterday with Jason LaCanfora. He asked me if I believe that the Angels can make the playoffs because his co-host has like a 18-1 ticket on the Angels to make the playoffs. I was like, I'm good. The Braves 10-1 to win the division. Very interesting as well. But yeah, I would say Major League Baseball right now, insane. And we're going to talk about some of the props to look at tonight. We'll talk about who's hot, who's not. We've got pitcher matchups to look at, and someone who's really good at helping me with not only Major League Baseball. I have been relying on him for the NHL for years. Let's bring on my good friend from over at Sports Grid, Tom Vecchio. What's up?
How's it going? Yeah, a 308-foot home run by Rafaela to walk it off is absolutely hilarious. People like to complain about the short porch at Yankee Stadium, but 308 is hilarious.
I mean, like, everyone does complain about the short porch, yet I don't understand how when you look around by the pesky pole, like, that wall is like what? How high?
It's like 3.5 or 4 feet high. It is funny. Like the dimensions of the stadium are so obscure that they actually make Yankee Stadium or Steinbrenner Field for the Rays actually look like a little normal.
Yeah, again, and I know Jazz. Okay, so Shawn Michaels like Jazz hit a 307 last night, but still, like when you look over the wall,
307.
Is that even possible? I don't
last
think that's
night.
Yankee Stadium 308.
No, it's 314, right?
314. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. This is irrelevant. It's not making us money. Let's make us some money.
358 last night by Jazz, regardless.
Yeah, okay. So, Shawn Michael, let's get our facts right, please. Come on. Tom's card.
Yeah, let's get into it with the Tigers. So, the Tigers are awesome. Great team. It happens. They're not going to win every game, despite the fact that the White Sox are terrible. They get blown out last night. It happens. But, looking at today's matchup, Jared Schuster going for the White Sox, just not a pitcher that I have literally any issue with. Like, I'm not afraid of him in any capacity. He only has 14 inning sample size this year. So this is more about like the Tigers lineup. So if you look at it from like 4 factors, it's like, all right, we got pitcher, lineup. We could say that this dude pitching for the Tigers, Sawyer Gibson Long, who's making his first MLB appearance, not just appearance since 2023, is also a non-factor. So the pitchers are both just completely irrelevant. The lineup from the White Sox is terrible, but the lineup from the Tigers is awesome. They're in the top 10 in the league, especially against lefties, which Schuster is when we're looking at WRC+, ISO. They don't strike out, they walk, they do everything that you possibly want. So of these 4 factors, the one that we trust the most would be the Tigers lineup overall. And I expect them to bounce back. Like, you're not going to hold a good offensive team down for one run where they lost 7-1, 8-1 last night. So I like them to bounce back. I like them to bounce back in a big way to cover the 1.5 on the run line at -110. Like, it is a -200 money line, but I don't want to be laying -200 when it's not Scooble. We're getting this pitcher who hasn't pitched since 2023. It's not even Flaherty on the mound. So I'm not going to lay 200. I'll take the run line, expect their offense to really do what they've done all season, just put up runs early and often.
How much do you really believe that the Tigers could keep this going all season?
I do.
Yeah. I hope so. I'm asking because I personally have a future on them to win the division.
Yeah.
I just am nervous they're peaking too early.
I don't. I think like last year they went like they earned like their battle scars last year. And I'm not sold on the Royals. I think they're a good team. I think they're a fun team, obviously calling up Cags yesterday, but the pitching is still an issue. I know that Reagan's coming back this weekend. I think it was later this week. He'll be back. And then when it comes to the Guardians, like I think they're good, but their pitching hasn't stepped up. And I said it at the beginning of the season, like the Guardians, if they can kind of just tread water essentially until Bieber gets back, they would be in a good spot. But we're seeing inconsistency from Bybee and Gavin Williams that they just don't have the pitching depth to really compete with the Tigers ultimately.
Yeah, that Tigers rotation and bullpen, phenomenal. And that's why I bet them to win the division. Before we get to hockey, Trent Grisham, Stephen Kwan, you love these to have a hit, parlay them at +105. Why?
Yeah, so this is just my normal daily thing, 2 hitters. They just happen to be in the same game. So Trent Grisham yesterday went over 3, over 4, whatever it is, but 3 of the balls that hit were at 90, 95, and 100 miles per hour, which I absolutely love. You look at Luis Ortiz, and some of his surface level metrics are okay, but he's due for some serious regression against lefties. He's allowing a 323 BABIP. He also has a 449 xFIP, and he walks too many hitters. He can strike out hitters. There's no doubt about it for him, but his BABIP is only at 233, which should regress closer to 300. So he's a pitcher that largely pitches the contact if he's not striking too many out. I know that sounds too weird, but I like where Grisham is, especially with these high batted balls. And then Stephen Kwan's awesome. Like, he doesn't get enough respect for just being a super consistent, really disciplined hitter at the plate. And yeah, he went 0 for 3 yesterday. Do I like to take good hitters, especially after they went 0 for 3, 0 for 4? Sure. Like I always like a good bounce back, and I always take someone like Stephen Kwan, top of the lineup, good getting the extra at bat. We had them together. We had +105.
I look at sometimes the runs market, that hits plus runs plus RBI market. Yeah. How much do you dabble in those?
I do that, but it's tough to do it when you're only looking for one player. I don't mind taking, 3 players from the same team. So, if you were to go to, an Aaron Judge at, 1 HRR, like 1 HRR from Aaron Judge, like -600. That's obviously insane. But if you were to take a Judge, Rice, Goldschmidt, you add them together. Now we're getting close to, even money. That's what I largely like to do, and that can correlate with the team total. So a team that has a 5.2, 5.5, whatever is implied run total, you can add their top 3 hitters together or your 3 favorite hitters, and that's where you go. You can just play it straight. I've obviously played it straight. Someone like Ellie De La Cruz, you get him over 1.5 at like a -120. He just needs a solo shot. And I also like the fact that you can cash this bet without ever getting a hit, because you get a walk, you come around and score a run, or you hit a sac fly, you get the
That's what annoys me about the total bases prop.
Well, yeah, total bases is tough because you do need a hit or 2 hits or a double or whatever it might be. But HRR is interesting to do when you attack it from like multiple players from the same team.
Jessica Brand said that's the old DFS stack strategy.
Yeah, just take multiple. Like, this team's going to score runs. I like, hitters 1, 3, 4, 5. Let's take those hitters. Let's add them in, and we get close to even money. It's really simple. Like, it does correlate well, but you're not getting fair odds because it automatically throws it into an SGP. So you do have to pay that.
How about stolen base props?
I couldn't tell you the last time I've ever bet a stolen base prop. I honestly, I think I bet stolen base props 2 years ago when Noah Syndergaard.
You get good value on them.
Noah Syndergaard was terrible at keeping runners on base, and when he was with the Angels, I think it was 2 years ago, he just couldn't hold runners on. So you can take shots on that, but I that may be the last time I bet them.
I feel like just looking at the MLB market, there is a bunch of value out there, Tom. Like, I was looking at, first of all, I get it. The AL East is down, but the Yankees being -1,600 in June is ridiculous. Yeah. And I feel like the Tigers at -550 also feels kind of ridiculous. And the Mets, I mean, fine, -115, Phillies +105, the Braves at 10-1. I mean, the Cubs are -410. Like, this is insane, the numbers we're seeing in June.
Yeah, the divisions are looking, I don't want to say like largely wrapped up, but it is pretty clear of who we should be seeing. To make the playoffs market, I think that's far more interesting, just because you'd be banking on wild card team where you say, okay, the Royals will get it together. And they're not going to win the division, but I think they'll make the playoffs. And you say the same thing about the Braves. They're not going to win the division. You just got to pick your team. You got to have, like, I said this coming into the year about the AL Central specifically, like, you have to have your horse from the beginning and you got to stick with them, because the odds were pretty tight to start the season. And the Twins were the favorite, which I said was just wrong on multiple shows.
Me too.
They were just not the team that you should be worried about.
Do you ever get into the mindset where you say, this number is wrong, there's no way the Twins should be this favorite? However, is there something that the book is catching on to that I don't know?
Well, I can say from experience, a lot of times the numbers are put there because the book's just protecting themselves. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Like, they're never going to hang good numbers on teams that they have a high exposure to. Like,
but I feel like they would have had a high exposure to the Royals.
Yeah, but the Royals pitching staff has issues, and you could say that, like, Skubal being a Cy Young winner at the time coming into the year, that he's always going to garner some respect, and part of the postseason price goes into, like, do they have a frontline starter? And they have that, and then they also signed Flaherty in the offseason.
Yeah, no, trust me, I love the Tigers. But okay, let's get into hockey. We've got the Stanley Cup Finals beginning tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Panthers, Oilers, what you got?
So I do have positions on the Oilers to win 4-3 and win 4-2. That was at 400 and 500 respectively for those two. So some series long props that I do like. I like Barkov tonight for 2+ shots on goal. It's -139. It's -139 with the 25% boost on FanDuel. So it's -170 or whatever it is without it. But I'm playing at -139. Barkov, top line center for the Panthers, will be on their top line on the power play. He should be getting those extra opportunities. I like, obviously, what he's done throughout the postseason. Looking back to last year's matchup, he had 2 shots in 6 out of 7 games. I'm not expecting that to be like the drawing point for people, but he's awesome. The matchups that he'll have are going to be tough, whether he's matched up against McDavid or Draisaitl, because the Panthers are on the road, which means they have second line change. The Oilers get to put out their line first, or the Panthers have to put out their line first. I should say the Oilers have second line change. So Barkov will be in tougher spots, but I just like what he brings to the table, and 2+ shots, -139 is pretty fair.
When looking at this matchup, you've got the Panthers in game 1 +102, Edmonton at -122, and that's just for game 1. But looking at the Cup, Edmonton -125 to win it all, and Florida +104. I feel like everyone's been hyping up the Florida Panthers all this time and how good they are. how much do you still like Florida?
I do. I also have a position on Bobrovsky to win the Conn Smythe, which is the MVP essentially. And I had that before this, the series was determined.
What'd you get that at?
350, and I think he's down to it's 280 now. So it's not like that much of a difference, but I think the series is going to go 6 or 7 games at a minimum, and it's not going to be like last year where 3-0 on one side, it goes all the way back to 3-0 on the other. It's going to be back and forth, like 1-win. So if you want to be on the Panthers tonight just because you want to take the plus money, that's fine. If they win tonight, just be on the Oilers next game. A lot of people like to use the zigzag, especially in playoff series. If they're hanging 6.5s now, I'd be willing to take unders. When it gets to 5.5, that's a different discussion. But as the series goes on, we'll see fewer and fewer goals overall. And I'll get to a point where I'll be taking some shots on alt under 4.5s, alt under 3.5s on smaller units, just expecting games to end like 2-1.
I know it's always hard to handicap these things early into a series. However, what are certain trends people can look out for with this matchup?
Well, the best bet to make, which I talked about before, would be just to take McDavid to win the Conn Smythe, because that's at a better price for compared to their series odds, which are -125. He's now -105 to win the Conn Smythe. So if they win, he's going to win it 99 times out of 100. But for the series overall, Zach Hyman, one of their top goal scorers, is out for the year. He had a wrist injury. So someone else is going to have to step up. Corey Perry, the veteran, is playing on the top line with McDavid, and he probably will be playing that net front role on the power play. So he could be in spots for a lot of goals. He may not be in spots for a lot of shots, but getting goals and easy deflections could be a clear path for Corey Perry, providing value in this series overall.
Let's jump to the NBA before I let you go, because Tom is just a professional at everything, and especially the sports that I love to talk about. So NBA starts tomorrow with the finals. We've got the Pacers at OKC. Before I even ask overall your thoughts on the series, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, his points props 33.5. Yet the Pacers have struggled against guards this entire postseason, talking like 30-plus points a game on average against Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson. Is 33.5 high enough for SGA?
It is. I think that's the point of resistance, where I don't think it'll move to 34, I should say, tomorrow. But if it does, I would play under 34.5.
I think Juice was already on the under for 33.5. It's the highest it's been.
It's what it should be. Like 30, like they're 230 total. So what's their team total of 100 and whatever it is, 119, somewhere around there. Can't do the math. 120-ish, somewhere around there. But if you're expecting to score like a quarter of their points, essentially. So we have to look at it in not just his points, but in like the team prop overall. So you're expecting him to score 30+% of the points, which I just think is too much. So I would be willing to play unders, especially if he moves to 34. But again, the books have to protect themselves. If they're starting taking overs on 30, 31, they have to continue to move it up and up.
SGA has been absolutely insane. I'm a little scared to fade him in the points section, but I might dabble in an under somewhere else on SGA, which I'll get to a little bit later in the show. What are you going to have your eye on for the NBA Finals?
So I have over 5.5 games. It was at +106, I think. And it's just, I would like to see the series go 4-2. Oklahoma City's going to win. I'm not telling you the Pacers. Oklahoma's going to win 4-2. I would like to see it 4-2 just so we get, a good series overall. I don't know if that price has moved at all, but if we get to that fifth game and OKC's up 3-1, I could just hedge out, essentially just take OKC money line, come out net even at a certain point. I think the Pacers need to at least cover in game one. I think we could see this series playing out slightly as we did OKC versus Denver, where if the Pacers have a shot, they have to punch OKC in the mouth in game one. So I think Pacers are live in game one to win if they can get out to an early start. So looking at first quarter, first half, whatever it might be. But if they don't do that and the Thunder can really go for the throat early and they win both home games, the Pacers stand no chance. It's that simple. Pacers have to take one of the first two.
I know that the NBA Finals MVP has SGA so heavily favored. I was brought on a show yesterday. They said, if there's value in the market, who is it? And I'm like, listen, I'm not betting this. I think there might be value at 80-1 on Chet Holmgren just because of how well Cat did against the Pacers. Maybe Chet could have a bunch of double-doubles in this series. Maybe they shut down SGA for somehow. I don't. But, is this market even bettable, Tom?
If you bet someone else, you are, I don't want to say it, but you're banking on an injury for SGA. That's what it comes down to. You're banking on an injury where he's unable to play for the rest of the series, and you get Chet Holmgren or Jalen Williams at 25-1, and all of a sudden that number would be, 3-1 on Williams. Like, that's all you're hoping for.
I just don't. Yeah, there's aside for injury, the Pacers have allowed Donovan Mitchell to average 34 points a game in their series. Jalen Brunson averaged 30 points a game in that series. SGA is having a better season, aka MVP, than all those guys. So I just can't even imagine the numbers that he might be putting up against Indiana.
Yeah, I think the series will start off with some points, just because 230s, but I think we'll end the series at game 5 or game 6, and we will see the total sub 220. I think we're going to start to see unders. Like, it'll eventually trend down, but we'll see. When the games end.
Well, do you think that we start? So you think at OKC maybe we are betting overs, and then in Indiana we're betting unders?
I think, well, at a certain point, I don't think the Pacers will be able to outscore the Thunder. Like, they can keep up with them, but at a certain point, the Thunder defense will always be better than the Pacers. So I think the Pacers want to score, but they know that that's not the best route. Like, you don't want to give more possessions to SGA. You want to, decrease them.
So, okay. So the way that you would play it then, this series, is that OKC wins in 5.
I think that's what it ultimately is. But again, I have an over 5.5 total games in the series, and I'm waiting to be able to hedge out at a certain point.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, we've got the NBA Finals tomorrow. I am assuming the Stanley Cup Finals are going to be much better than the NBA Finals, right?
I would say minimum 6 games in Stanley Cup. If it goes 6, credit to the Pacers for putting up an awesome fight.
I agree. I just don't see. I know a lot of people who are laying 2.5 on the series for the NBA Finals.
Oh yeah, it's reasonable. I don't like that because
it's the only way you get value on OKC.
Right. That would be it, or the only value else I guess you would have to be direct series outcome.
Right.
OKC 4-1 or OKC 4-2 at 210 and plus 440. That's the only.
Have you done that where you will bet both of those, because if you end up winning one, you could find a way?
Yeah, I have that for the Oilers. I have the Oilers to win 4-2 and 4-3.
Right.
So if we lose game 6 and we go to game 7, that means the Panthers are in a spot. I could then hedge out and bet on the Panthers money line to then make back both of those bets. Essentially, that's what I want.
Brand is really good at this. Jessica, can you figure out for me, if you wanted to bet, just like to see the best numbers, because Jessica grabs from all the markets. So if you were to bet for the OKC Thunder to win in game 5 and game 6, those exact outcomes, how can you do it to hedge? Just to get people maybe some numbers going. And while Jessica's figuring that out, Tom Vecchio, thank you so much for coming on the show. As always, you are always a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Next week after, I'm always around.
Thank you so much. Tom Vecchio. Make sure to catch him all over on the Sports Grid platforms. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Jessica's going to figure that out, I'm sure, if she's still here. And we could talk about it after this next guest, because this next guest, you know him. He's come on the show a bunch of times. He is literally the pearl that I was granted by the guys over at NHL. I had no idea. I always talked to Pete Jensen, and he was like, hey, Troy Perlowitz is awesome. You should definitely have him come on. He's our researcher over at NHL.com. He is always helping those guys out, and he is helping me out beyond, because I need help in the NHL, especially when it comes to props. So let's give it up for Troy Perlowitz. What's up?
Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. I am so excited to get your takes on all the different props that we could see for tonight and throughout the series in the Stanley Cup Finals. I guess I'll start with, how surprised are you to see the Panthers being dogs?
A little, I guess. They're the closest thing to a dynasty that we have in the NHL right now. You've been to 3 straight cups. You won last year. You're the favorite. They don't have home ice, which is probably a big deal and why they're underdogs. But I think that speaks more to how good Edmonton is playing, especially coming into this final, that they deserve to be favorites more than Florida deserves to be an underdog.
Let's take a look at some of these props that you're looking at for tonight. So this is just for game 1, where tonight we do have Edmonton hosting Florida. The Oilers are minus 125, Panthers plus 104, total 6.5. First, you're looking at Brad Marchand to go over half a point. Great value here at plus 110. Why?
Yeah, I think I hope people remember that Brad Marchand is a member of the Florida Panthers, an in-season trade picked up at the deadline, and he's been a welcome addition to that roster. He's already played 20 career games in the Stanley Cup Final, which is incredible. That leads the Panthers. That's more than any Panther on their current roster. He's got 14 points in 17 games this postseason. 12 points in those 20 career Stanley Cup Final games. And he's playing on a line with Eetu Luostarinen and Anton Lundell, which is that third line for Florida. And as Tom mentioned, I think they're going to probably end up missing that line in particular. They're probably going to missing McDavid and Draisaitl's line. So I really like their exposure. And that line in particular, they're outscoring opponents 10-2 at 5-on-5 during the playoffs. So they're really a juggernaut when it comes to the scoreboard. I really like Marchand's chances to get a point tonight.
It's great value. Plus 110. I love it. You've given us a lot of value on the board for this game because you've got Evander Kane over 3.5 shots on goal. I mean, this is crazy. Plus 265. Damn. Why are you thinking this is like essentially an upset kind of pick?
So Evander Kane, I like him in particular, and I'm going to try to make this as simplistic as I can from a research standpoint. So Evander Kane is really, really good off the rush. What that means is that when a player skates into the offensive zone past the blue line, within 5 seconds, they're getting a shot on net. That would be off the rush. And Evander Kane is so good at that. He's one of the best Oilers ever, one of the best Oilers in that particular situation. I expect the Oilers are a much faster team. That's their advantage over the Panthers in this particular Stanley Cup Final. The Oilers, we have speed bursts at the NHL. We measure speed bursts at NHL Edge. Anything over 20 miles an hour is considered a speed burst. And Edmonton has over 100 more than Florida in the postseason. So they have a really big speed advantage. And what that means is that the Oilers tend to get more chances off the rush than all of their opponents do. And Evander Kane is big on that. He gets shots and he gets scoring chances and goals off the rush. So I really like his point as shots on goal prop in particular. He's playing with Leon Draisaitl on that second line, so he shouldn't see too much of Alexander Barkov, who's probably going to be playing a lot against McDavid's line. So I expect him to get even more chances off the rush tonight. And he's a player. Remember, Evander Kane, he only played 2 games in last year's Stanley Cup Final because he got injured. Then he missed the entire regular season and missed the first game of the postseason as well. So he's a highly motivated player. I expect he wants to shoot, and so I expect him to get over 3.5 tonight.
Wow. Okay. Well, you guys could get better value on that than almost anything in sports tonight, aside from maybe like a random home run prop. But I like the explanation of it, and you've sold me on a plus 265, which is like crazy. An anytime goal at plus 650. Also, Luostarinen, like, again, giving us so much value on the board tonight. Why should people be putting their money on a plus 650?
Well, I'm thinking that there's just so many. Florida's strength in this series is how deep they are, right? They come at you in droves. Their forecheck is great. I expect them to spend more time in the offensive zone than the Oilers do tonight. That's what Florida likes to do against their opponents. They're a big possession team, and they like to get into the offensive zone and stay there. They like to retrieve pucks, skate around. So Luostarinen playing on that line with Marchand and Anton Lundell, I think those players are probably thought of more as for their offensive upside. But Luostarinen has been really good. He scored all 4 of his goals this postseason from that inner slot area. So I expect him to get, if the Panthers are going to score, and that might be hard to do tonight inside the Oilers building, it might be Luostarinen who does that for him.
Wow. I mean, again, a 6.5 total, it's pretty high compared to you. I mean, you're saying that it's going to be tough to score, yet we've got a 6.5 total. Why?
Yeah, I'll agree with Tom again. I expect there to be goals at the start of this series. Both teams are very good offensively. I think the Oilers generate more quality offense in terms of volume, but the Panthers, they have some stone cold killers on their team. They might not get a lot of volume of quantity of chances, but they convert on those and they turn them into goals. So Edmonton has been really good structurally on their defensive end. And then I don't expect them to stop that. I expect them to succeed there. But Florida, they convert. They're that team that they get into the red zone and then they score touchdowns. They don't settle for field goals, if you want to make a football analogy. So I really like Florida. Look, they might not generate a ton of scoring chances tonight, but I trust them to score goals when they do get those chances.
A block shots prop is not something that I'm totally familiar with. How do they, can you explain this to people who might not know hockey betting as well, how they book the block shots props?
So any attempt that is on net, that they deem to be on net, any shot attempt that is deemed to be on net, that is blocked by a defender is considered a block shot. I always think of block shots. It's funny because I don't think a lot of fans know this, but just from an analytical standpoint, in hockey, when you attempt a shot, there are 4 outcomes, right? We're all very familiar with a goal and a goalie save, right? Those are 2 outcomes we're all familiar with. But the other 2 outcomes are that the shot is blocked by a defender or the shot misses a net, right? Those are the 4 outcomes that you could do. And only about 5% of shot attempts are goals. So hockey's a very hard sport. It's a hard sport to play. It's a hard sport to gamble on. It's just a really hard sport. I like this block shot prop tonight in particular because, like I said, I expect Florida to spend a lot more time in the offensive zone than Edmonton tonight. And I expect them to want to shoot and test Stuart Skinner, who has been very good lately, but has shown signs of, not being very good like he was in the first 2 games of the postseason. So Matthias Ekholm is a huge X factor for me in this series, and I picked him. I really like any Oilers defenseman for a block shot prop tonight, but I picked Ekholm. I expect him to be a big X factor in this series. Remember, his first game of the postseason was that Game 5 clincher in the Western Conference Final against Dallas, and he played a little bit below than what he usually averages. I expect him to get, with the 5 days off of rest in between the Western Conference Final and the Stanley Cup Final, I expect him to be at full strength, play more minutes, and then probably block more shots than what the public is, or what sportsbook is expecting to block tonight.
Mark wants to know Perry first goal, and if not, then who else would you say?
I really like Corey Perry. Tom made a great point about Zach Hyman not being there. That's a huge deal for Edmonton. Zach Hyman's a big part of their offense. Zach Hyman is their net front presence on their power play. He's also fast. He plays a lot with McDavid. He played a lot on McDavid's wing. Corey Perry is a really good replacement. The only knock on Corey Perry is that he's 40 years old, and not a lot of people expect him to stay healthy. But he's here, and he's the most experienced Stanley Cup Final player in this series. I like that pick. That's a solid pick for a first goal scorer. He's got 7 goals in the postseason, and 6 of them have come from high danger areas. So he's, that's exactly what we built him on. That's what he's doing. He's getting to the front of the net and he's scoring goals.
How would you tell people? I know people like these markets, first goal, first basket. How would you tell people to handicap the first goal?
It's a little random, right? But I would choose the team first. I think that's a big thing, is who do you expect to score first? Part of my calculus on a first goal scorer in game 1 in particular, you tend to go with the home team, right? Like the home team has their fans in the building.
I'd assume.
Yes, exactly. So Edmonton, it's the first time Canada, this whole entire country, has hosted let's go back to Edmonton in particular. It's the first time they're hosting a game 1 in these playoffs. Remember, they started on the road in LA in the first round. In the second round against Vegas, they were on the road, and in the conference finals in Dallas, they were on the road as well. So this is the first time they're going to host a game 1 in the postseason. I like anyone on Edmonton to score first. Canada hasn't really hosted a Stanley Cup Final. I think it was Vancouver in 2011 was the last time that they hosted a game 1. So I expect the building to just be jacked up, electric, anything you want to use.
I can't imagine what it's going to be like out there in Canada for this. And let's take a look at the futures, because we were talking about the Conn Smythe for a bit, which we'll get to for some value. However, this is an interesting way to play Connor McDavid, who I know a lot of people probably have some action on Conn Smythe for him. To lead the series in shots on goal at plus 225, that's pretty nice for McDavid.
Yeah, so something about McDavid, he's shooting more, right? He's shooting more in the postseason than he was in the regular season. We expect Connor McDavid to find his points through playmaking, a lot of assists, but he's been shooting more. He's been shooting more from high danger areas. He's been shooting more from mid range, which is like the top of the circles area. He's been just shooting a lot more. So in terms of his shots on goal props, I really like this angle because you could get more value. There's probably not a lot of value on his points, probably not a lot of value on his goals. But for him to be a shots on goal producer, I expect that to happen in this series. Carter Verhaeghe is another one. For 3 goals in the series, he's Captain Clutch, right? He's got a great nickname in Swaggy. So I like his chances here in this series to score at least 3 goals. And then another one, you mentioned the Conn Smythe prop with McDavid. With Leon Draisaitl, I think he's being a little mispriced here for his odds, which is why I like him and I have him here. Leon Draisaitl is a big series away from winning the Conn Smythe. I agree with Tom. 99% of the time, McDavid's going to win the Conn Smythe if the Oilers win the Stanley Cup. But I do see a scenario if Draisaitl has a huge series and McDavid is a little neutralized, that he could jump in there and possibly win the award. Remember this on Draisaitl. He was held without a goal for the entire Stanley Cup Final last year. So he's a motivated player to get back and do some big-time production in this series.
I like that. Someone with a little chip on their shoulder, no pun intended, on winning a potential chip. Speaking of winning the chip, who's winning this series?
I like Tom's angle on 6 or 7 games because these teams are very evenly matched, and we got a legendary series last year. I don't see any reason why this wouldn't be a long series this year. I had Edmonton at the start of at the playoffs. I'm going to stick with them. I think they had all the traits of a Stanley Cup contender. They play really good defense. They could score at will whenever you want. And when you lose a Stanley Cup Final and you drain it all out and you end up with nothing at the end of last season, I don't know what more can motivate you to get back there, and which they have, and to finally win this time. I like the Oilers, and I'll take them in 7 because I like the series. I would love to, as an NHL employee, I would love the series to go 7 games. And
it's crazy right now that I'm seeing the total games is 5.5 on FanDuel, but juiced to the over at minus 210. Like, let's move this baby up.
Yeah, right.
So you think even if it went over 6, like if it went to 6.5, you'd say like this ends in 7.
Correct. Yeah, that's the way to do it. I mean, the Oilers, both teams, Florida was pushed to 7 games by Toronto, but the Oilers, they're 12-2 in their last 14 games. They haven't had long series. I think it's a test, right? Both teams want it. There's great storylines on both sides. The Oilers going for their first cup since 1990, and Florida trying to, repeat in 2 of their 3 appearances. It's really great storylines, and I'm just looking forward for it to start in a couple hours.
Mark has another question. He said there's a prop on FanDuel for McDavid to beat Gretzky's Stanley Cup Final points with 14. Do you like that? It's plus 550.
Sure. You can
be honest. You could tell him no.
No, I think he's in for a huge series. How big? 14 points is a lot, right? And you're also banking on the series going long, if that's the case, right? I like the series going 7 games. I like McDavid to get.
It's high totals at 6.5 so far.
Sure. Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? McDavid is averaging close to 2 points per game in his career against Florida, combined in the postseason and the regular season. So it's obviously an opponent he likes. He's okay playing in that building. I like that. I like that bet just because I don't see a scenario where McDavid is quiet in this series. I just think it's set up for him. He's healthy. He's playing at the top of his game. I think he's in for a huge series.
So anyone who watches this show knows that I have this segment where I talk about the most bet on props of the day. That segment is called Propaganda. So you're going to play along with me for the NHL Propaganda. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here it is, Propaganda. It's my favorite stinger. Okay. Wait, hold on. I did this wrong. I got too excited. Propaganda for the NHL. So these are the most bet on props right now in the NHL for game 1. Connor McDavid to score an anytime goal. Connor McDavid to score the first goal. Leon Draisaitl to score a goal. No goal in the first 10 minutes. Sam Bennett under a half a point. So when it's the most bet on props, I always talk about fading the public. This is obviously where the public's betting. Which of these props would you tell people to fade or not bet?
I'd go McDavid. I'd fade no goal in the first 10 minutes. And I'll tell you why. I do expect game. I agree with Tom again, and I'm sorry if I said this, but I expect there to be high number of goals in the early portions of this series and then kind of dry out as the series goes on. I just have a feeling someone's going to score in the first 10 minutes of the game. I mean, we saw Florida do that in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final against Carolina, and Florida's been a road juggernaut, right? They've also won 5 straight games on the road in the postseason, and they've outscored teams by 22 goals in that span, which is crazy. And Edmonton, in their own right, is a very good home team, right? They've won 6 of 7 at home in the postseason, and they're outscoring opponents by 16 goals. So both teams like to jump on their opponent early. So I would fade no goal in the first 10 minutes because I think there is going to be one.
I love it. See, there's always a reason to fade the public. Very rarely does the public go 5-0. In fact, more commonly, the public goes 0-5. And it's happened before where I have gone through propaganda and I'm like, L, 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 L. So it's a lot of fun to be able to fade them.
Yeah, the public is not very smart sometimes.
No. And what I've heard from a lot of these odds makers is that these like influencers will give out these bets and the public will just follow this TikTok person that's probably 21 years old and just started gambling, be like, oh, he's great at gambling. He says that he's up 58 units. Like, dude, you're 21.
That's why people should tune into this show.
Exactly, because we've got a pro like Troy Perlowitz, who's over at NHL.com. And I know that you have what show are you on the show, or do you just do research for Pete's show?
I just do research for Pete's show now, but there are talks. Sources close to me tell me that there might be a change coming up next year. We shall see.
That's why we love having you on, because anything I could do to help, you are so freaking awesome, and you give us so much information on the NHL that I think the viewers really, really like it. Like here, Easy Money, Prop Queen, thank you for helping me win money. Like, this is what the point is bringing on smart people like Troy to come and talk to you guys. And he said this show has helped me win a lot of money. Troy is good at that. So catch him over at NHL.com and here all the time, because I am definitely bringing you back on for more Stanley Cup Finals.
I love the opportunity. I'm here for you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, Troy. And we'll talk to you soon. Now it's my turn. I'm going to stick to propaganda, and I'm going to play the stinger one more time because I love it. These are the most bet on props at Major League Baseball, according to BetMGM. Starting with Andrew Abbott, who did not go over his strikeout prop because he got absolutely slammed. Or did he? Oh, gosh, I'm pretty sure he didn't go over it. He got slammed today. This game was 9-1 Milwaukee. Cincinnati ends up losing. And Abbott, oh no, he did. He had 6 strikeouts. Damn it. I got excited. Anyway, great job by the public. Over 5.5 Ks. He went over with 6, and he gave up 5 runs and 7 hits. Kyle Schwarber to hit a homer. Vlad Guerrero to hit a homer. Caglione to hit a homer. Lindor over 1.5 total bases. So I was talking about a few of these players on the PropQueen.com newsletter. Not Schwarber. He didn't really have any numbers to talk about. Vladdy has been doing pretty well recently. Let me see if I have Vladdy on this list. No. But I know Lindor is. So Lindor is hitting .450 with 4 home runs and 9 runs scored in his last 5 games. So he's doing really well right now. Caglione, I mean, you're just a homer at this point because he was 0-5 yesterday. I know that he had his first contact that he made was a nice hit to right center, but it got caught, so it wasn't a hit, obviously. But again, 0-5 yesterday. So you're just betting this because you're hopeful. Like, there's no numbers to back it in the majors. He's got the numbers in the minors. The other ones, I don't really know. I don't really like home run props, but I'm just not going to be betting Jack Caglione to hit a home run tonight. Batters to watch. Let's go to some overs. These are some of the players that have really good matchups tonight in Major League Baseball. Obviously, Cal Quantrill and Andrew Abbott already pitched. Jose Ramirez is smashing Clark Schmidt, hitting 429, 2 doubles and a homer. He's also hitting 398 with 6 home runs and 15 ribbies, 25 runs scored, and 29-game on-base streak. So Jose Ramirez tonight at Yankee Stadium. Stephen Kwan, who, if you just are tuning in, Tom Vecchio put him in his hit parlay. Stephen Kwan to get a hit, and he parlayed that. Now I'm blanking on who he parlayed it with. Tom parlayed it. You guys all probably have a better memory than me. Trent Grisham, and Stephen Kwan, he said he's parlaying to get a hit at plus 105. So Stephen Kwan has great numbers against Clark Schmidt. Kyle Manzardo also has good numbers, but again, very small sample size, 3 for 5 with 2 home runs, and that's it against Clark Schmidt. Nick Castellanos hitting 381, double home run against Jose Barrios. That line's moving against Barrios too, so be careful of that game. Castellanos has good numbers. Paul Goldschmidt, 7 of 10 with 2 doubles against Luis Ortiz at Yankee Stadium. Josh Bell has a double, 4 for 8, but those are just a bunch of singles against Boyd. Willie Adames, so he's got great numbers against Pavetta. You might be able to get a good number on Adames tonight because he's struggling. He's hitting 113 with 5 singles, 3 ribbies in his last 16 games. But against Pavetta, Adames has great numbers, 455, 4 doubles, and a homer. So again, maybe you look at Adames tonight. Juan Soto, he's getting hot, and he's got good numbers against Tony Gonsolin of the Dodgers. Soto has an extra base hit in each of his last 5 games, going 6 of 18 with 2 doubles, 3 home runs, and 5 ribbies in that span. But he's never had a 6-game streak. So if you want to go and bet something that's never happened before to Juan Soto, you can go look there. Some unders you could look at. Eugenio Suarez hasn't gotten a hit yet in his career against Chris Sale. Ketel Marte hitting 133 against Sale. Max Muncy, no hits against Griffin Canning. Despite Muncy hitting 316 with 8 home runs, 26 ribbies in the last 18 games, it could be a good fade spot maybe. Mike Trout hitting 176 with a triple and a home run against Lucas Giolito. Matt Olson hitting has no hits against Merrill Kelly in his career, and Alex Verdugo has no hits against Merrill Kelly in his career. Easy Money says, I like Acuna Jr. versus Kelly tonight. Would you look at that when you get a chance, please? Let me see. I don't really think I saw anything on Acuna. I will look at my MLB numbers. Let's see if there's anything on Acuna tonight. Acuna. So, Ronald Acuna Jr. Braves ranked 22nd. I'll let you improve on it. Yeah, there's really nothing on Acuna tonight, so I don't really know why you like it, but I didn't see anything that really stood out to me about Acuna. Is Marley under the desk? No, my cousin is actually here, and she's keeping Marley quiet, who I've walked like 3 hours today. So Marley is very tired, and I'm sure she's going to be like an infant and end up waking up as soon as like the show's over, and I'm going to have to deal with the fact that she doesn't want to sleep tonight. So that's probably what's going to happen to me with Marley today. But at least she's quiet during the show, so at least you guys don't have to worry about it. Now I just probably do. Strikeout props to watch for tonight. I didn't love anything, but these are the 3 that caught my eye. First, going with the Cubs lefty Matthew Boyd to go over 5.5 Ks. This is in plus money. Boyd's gone over 5.5 strikeouts in all 4 matchups he's had against high K rate lineups. Pittsburgh, San Francisco, the White Sox, the Rockies. He's had 6 or more. The Nats are averaging just over 5 strikeouts a game against lefty starters, with 2 of the last 3 southpaws to face Washington going over 5.5 strikeouts. Cleveland's righty Luis Ortiz, he's facing the Yankees tonight. You could look at his over 4.5 Ks if he could still get it under -150. Ortiz's had 5 or more strikeouts in 3 of 4 when facing high K rate lineups. That's the Yankees. They average 5 strikeouts a game. Righty starters, 6 of the last 10 have had 5 or more against the Yanks. As for the Giants lefty, Kyle Harrison, under 4.5 strikeouts. Very small sample size. Harrison's only made 2 starts this year. Washington and Miami. Neither of those lineups have low strikeout rates against lefties. I fade it because the Padres lineup just doesn't strike out against southpaws. 12 unders, 6 overs, averaging just over 4 strikeouts a game when facing San Diego. So Kyle Harrison potentially look to the under of 4.5 strikeouts. NBA Finals. These are some plays that I'd be looking at. And actually, before I get to the props, I told you guys, so Jessica's really good. Jessica Brand is very good at putting together ways that you can still profit by betting like to win the series in like the exact win the series bets. So Jessica said with FanDuel, you can bet OKC in 5 at +210, OKC in 6 at +440 for $100. 65 on the 5, 35 and 6, and you get to about -105 payout. So if anyone's interested in OKC winning in 5 or 6, and you don't know which one you want to bet, but you want to make some kind of profit off this series, because obviously we're not making money by betting OKC, then you can take a look at betting it this way. Thank you, Jessica. I know that you're really good at doing that kind of stuff. Okay, so props. First, I'd be looking at SGA under 7.5 assists. So I don't foresee the number being around tomorrow. I've already seen it drop to 6.5 in a lot of spots. And this is very generous juice for a -135. The Pacers have been so bad this postseason against point guards, they don't even need to dish the ball out. Jalen Brunson averaged just under 31 points a game. He averaged just under 6 assists, 5.7. Donovan Mitchell averaged 34 points a game in the series against the Pacers. And in the first game, I expect SGA to just go off at home, attacking in the paint where the Pacers defense is weak. He's not going to need to dish the ball out because they can't even protect against him anyway. So I would take an under there of 7.5 assists before it's gone. Chet Holmgren, I think he can have a bunch of double-doubles in this series. You saw what Cat was able to do against the Pacers. But Chet over 16.5 points. He really started to shine in the Minnesota series. He averaged 18 points a game with 3 20-plus point performances. The Pacers struggled last series against someone like Cat, grab boards, shoot from the wing. Isaiah Hartenstein playing the defensive role for OKC at center, so it allowed Chet to do more of what Cat could do while Miles Turner is too distracted and busy with Hartenstein. I would look it over on Chet's points. And lastly, Pascal Siakam over 6.5 rebounds is in plus money. I think it's great value. He had 10 and 9 rebounds against OKC in the regular season. These teams move at such a fast pace. There's going to be a ton of rebounding opportunities. Game 1, it's the adrenaline rush, running up and down the court quickly. I expect there to be missed shots. Siakam's been more reliable on the boards than Miles Turner. That's why Siakam's rebounds prop is 6.5 and Turner's at 5.5. Siakam's had 7 or more rebounds in 2 of the 3 game 1s. Looking at the Thunder, they allowed at least 2 players to have 8 or more rebounds in both game 1s against the Nuggets and the T-Wolves. So in plus money, you could take a look at Pascal Siakam tomorrow night to go over his rebounds. You know what it is? It is the last minute of the show. So that means, oh wait, no, I didn't get to Fishy Lines. Damn it. Okay, where's Fishy Lines? I didn't add it. That's why I almost forgot it. Okay, we've got one more before I get to Royal Locks. Nope, I can't add it. Hold on one second. Producer problems. Okay, I told you, guys, you can only have a certain number of graphics in the show, and then it makes you delete them to add more. This one is Fishy Lines. Your fishy line of the day. Look at how much the line has moved in favor of Baltimore, despite the public being on the Seattle Mariners. Listen, I know it's hard to back Cade Povich. However, it's hard to back the Seattle Mariners right now. They've lost 8 of their last 13. The offense has been abysmal in that 13-game span, averaging 3.3 runs per game, hitting 167 with runners in scoring position. Outside of their catcher, Cal Raleigh, the rest of the Mariners are hitting 219 with just 9 home runs. Mariners starter Emerson Hancock owns a 4.50 ERA in his last 8 starts. The Orioles bullpen's much more rested than the Mariners. I would just be very wary of the Seattle Mariners tonight. Now it's my best bets of the day. Let's get to Royal Lux. Royal Lux. Baseball and basketball. Starting with this play at Matthew Boyd, over 5.5 Ks at plus 102. I like the value. Boyd's gone over this 5.5 number in all 4 matchups against high K rate teams. The Nats are averaging just over 5 strikeouts a game against lefties, with 2 of the last 3 southpaws going over against Washington. Then in the NBA, I'm telling you this is a royal lock because I don't see this number at 7.5 sticking around. SGA is probably dropping to 6.5 by tomorrow with juice to the over. You're getting a good number at juice to the under, 7.5 assists. The Pacers are so bad against guards. SGA is going to be able to take advantage. He's not going to need to dish the ball out. Jalen Brunson went over 6.5 assists in just 2 games, and the book kept booking it at 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, and yet it only went over twice. Jalen Brunson averaged 31 points a game in this series. Donovan Mitchell averaged 34 points a game in against Indiana in that series. SGA's at home. He should go off tomorrow night against the Indiana Pacers, not need to dish the ball out to his teammates. That's it for us here on the Prop Queen Pod. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As always, EC Money says thank you to Jessica Brand. I always want to give her a shout out. She is always in the propqueen.com newsletter that you can subscribe to. Premium subscribers get all of this information first thing in the morning around 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern time. And Jessica always provides some good statistics for betting in there as well. And then you can also subscribe to the Prop Queen Pod on YouTube, Prop Queen Sports on YouTube. Please subscribe and like. It helps a lot. I appreciate all of you for always tuning in. Make sure to spread the word. And I will be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time here on the Prop Queen Pod. Good luck with your bets tonight.